Hi, and welcome to the living room. Thank you for dropping in. If this is your first time here, I hope you decide to come back. You've been here before. Thanks for coming back. So, I do have my coffee. I have several different cutters here. We have some bark, and we have an orchid. Why do we have this orchid? You said we are going to do a repot of sorts. What we're going to do is we're going to separate this keiki from the mama plant. Or I'm just going to take the mama plant's leaves off and pot the keiki deeper. It depends on what the stem looks like, kind of what it looks like once we get it out of the pot. Normally, I like to water my orchids prior to repotting them or taking them out of the pot. However, I don't want to do that today because I don't know how the stem looks and I don't want the stem to be wet when I cut it. But I've had this one since 2019. This is a no ID. I do call her Iris. In the year of, I believe it was 2020, maybe 2021, she was in bloom the full year. And this is a good time as well to do it because, as you can see right here, the keiki has an active root tip. So I'm going to have to be uber careful with that because I'm not sure if she has any more. I saw the one and I said, well, it's go time. Let me just get in here and do it. And the roots that are growing out of the pot, I am going to cut them. It's not that many, and more than likely they're from the mama anyway. So if I end up cutting off Miss Lady, anywho, those roots aren't going to be in there to begin with. Got one down here at the bottom that I know is going to keep it from coming out, so we'll just cut that off. And if it ends up it was from the keiki, then well, there's collateral every time. So I am squeezing a le pot. And let me just dump it out so we can see what we've got going on in the pot. But like I was saying, I got her in 2019. She's just a no ID. I got it at the grocery store, Lowe's. She was in bloom for almost an entire year. And then she didn't do anything. And then she started growing a leaf. And I didn't realize this was a keiki until the second leaf was growing. That's when I realized we got a keiki on our hands. Yeah, so all of these roots that you see down here, all of these are from the mama. And she does have quite the stem. So let's take these leaves off first. I'm just going to separate them down the middle. And then I'm going to break it off on either side. I don't have to be super careful because I'm taking her off of here anyway. Now, if I was trying to do this with the keiki, obviously you want to be a little more careful. But seeing as we're going to get rid of most of mom anyway, we don't have to be as careful and diligent with roots and whatnot, except for that root tip that seems to be all in the way, like literally all in the way. Let me just pull it from this side here. You know what? There is a root that is bothering me, so we're going to just clip that one off. And she's been living in heavy moss and bark. But her being the keiki has mainly had bark around the roots with a little bit of moss around it. So I'm going to try to replicate that when I put her back in the pot. Now these roots that we see here, they are aerial roots, but they do have active root tips on them. See if I can get that one in there for you. I'm kind of banking on them as well to kind of acclimate to the bark because I'm going to put her in primarily bark with kind of some moss close to the top to encourage root growth. Found that has really worked well with a lot of my orchids, especially my cattleyas that don't like to give me roots. Let's see, we have a lot of hard sheaths on here. Let's see, that's from mama. So this root right here I'm going to cut because it is from the mother plant. And we do have some papery roots in here, but we have quite a few that are still viable if we need to use them. I'm not going to use that one. And cut that old spike off. Hopefully my little fiskars can do that without me having to pull out the big guns. Let's just get rid of all of these roots for right now so I can see what I'm doing. All the ones that I know we're not going to use. This way we can really get in. Oh, look at there. Look at all the space that made. Awesome. That one is from the mama as well. But it is also in the way. So let me get the big ones because I'm trying to cut off. She's got an old flower spike here, an old flower spike here, an old flower spike over here that I was able to cut off. She's usually a reliable bloomer, but since making the Keiki, she has not been. You know what? I'm going to just cut the stem about right here. Like where all that dried is, right here. I'm gonna cut the stem there and see what we've got. There we go. All right, nice clean woodiness there. May not be able to take the stems off like I want to, the flower spike stems. There we go. That one came off nicely. Now I'm just going to clean up a little bit. Is that any good? It is. We'll leave it on there, or will we? I'm just going to cut all of Mama's roots off of here. And they may end up extending out again because I may cut her again. I just want to see what I've got once I cut all these. All right, well, there is that. All right, so we did cut into some healthy tissue on this one. I do have my cinnamon up and ready to go, but I'm not going to use it until I have determined, yeah, that one is not going to be going in because I'm going to give her one more cut right here because we have another old flower spike there. I'm telling you, this lovely lady here is a spiker. Once she gets going, she likes to show her colors, and I am A-okay with that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently take all of these dried sheaths off that are from old leaves without hopefully doing any damage to her roots that are on la bébé. And the best way to do it is start at the bottom and work your way up because they are kind of layered over each other. Most of the time, that's the easiest way. Not all of the time, but most of the time. Let me see if I can cut that little piece of nubbin off because that is stopping that sheath from coming off easily. There we go. Give me a second here. I kind of have to concentrate because I'm getting close to the Keiki roots now. And that one that has that beautiful root tip on it that I'm relying on. The rest of them do have active root tips as well. They're just not as prominent. Well, that one's pretty prominent, but I want to get the dry sheaths off because that will allow her to kick out a few more roots a little easier and they don't have to work so hard to get through that woodiness. Phalaenopsis roots are pretty sturdy and we'll go through that woody sheathing. But if we can help them along, why not, right? And I think that is probably all I'm going to do. I'd like to get some more off, but that's what we're left with right there. And this root is from the momma. It is not from the Keiki. It does have a little, no, is that from the Keiki? That might, no, that's from the momma. That's too far down to be from the Keiki. Either way it goes, it's staying. So I do have my little plate of cinnamon, and what I'm going to do is, let me see if I can show you guys a little better. I'm going to hold the roots back so that they don't touch the cinnamon, and I'm just going to gently maybe, well, that was the plan. Obviously that is not going to work, so let me wet my finger a little bit, and we'll do it this way. So after I pot her up, she is not going to get water then for at least 24 hours. So I can let this harden off and not introduce any germs and bacterias and whatever else might go in there to ruin what we've done. I was wanting, I think I'm going to put her back into the same pot. I think she'll be fine. Yep, I'm just going to put her back in the same pot. And pull our bark out here. Last time she was repotted was in June of 22. You know what? I'm going to cut, even though it's a nice root, I'm going to cut it anyway so that she fits in the pot better. There we go. Yep. See? Now she'll fit in there better. And she'll be a little wanky. Is what it is. And this is just the mixture of small, medium, and large Orchiata Bark from the Orchid Supply Store, which, again, you can get a 12% discount by using coupon code TRISH at checkout. And it is multi-use. You can use as many times as you want. on anything that you want. You want to buy orchids, you want to buy houseplants, you want to buy supplies, you want to buy a combination of things. Actually, I did actually gauge that pretty good, except I want her further back. So instead of taking the bark out, I'm just going to move it forward a little bit because this long root right here, I kind of want it in the back, but not by a hole. There we go. And come on, girl. Let's get you situated here. So now that I have that root where I want it, I'm going to move the bark on the other side so I can get the other roots down kind of to the height that I want, like so. There. And then we just fill her in. I want to make sure that all the roots are going in, but none of them are right next to a hole because I don't want her to climb out immediately. I want her to settle in here first. I'm going to fill in the front first so that she lays forward without being straight up. Because right now her leaves have been growing straight up because of how she's been sitting on the mama. And that moss I was talking about, I'm just going to put a teeny tiny bit on the other side. Let me shake some of that there, just to help encourage. Like when I say a teeny tiny bit, that's all the moss that's going to go in there. And it's just going in around the base, not on the base, but around the base, so that maybe we can encourage some root growth. Take a little bit of this here, especially since we have all that woodiness going on over there. A little bit. Let me make sure it's not up on the base. I don't want it there, but I do want it around the base, if that makes sense. So that is kind of how I have the moss set in there. As you can see, it's close to the base without being on the base. And that will help, excuse me, help protect her from rotting at the base. In theory, anyway. We shall see. And then we'll cover it up on this side. And the one root is just going to have to be aerial because I cannot get it to go in, and I'm not trying to force anything because I don't think I want to break it, seeing as she went in with very limited amount roots. Very limited. But enough to sustain the size of her. Now, since I've had her since 2019, I know that once she gets going, she's going to get going. So that is kind of why she's in this same size pot, this 5.5-inch pot, simply because I'm not repotting her again in probably about 6 months. She's going to really get some roots going in here. I mean, she's going to get them going before that, but I'm talking about filling it up where she's going to look ridiculous in a small pot. And I just got to redo it again. So now if you're more comfortable potting your orchid into a small pot until she establishes, absolutely. I do that sometimes. I'll do that with orchids I'm not too familiar with, but I've had her long enough. We know each other. And around here, I didn't make sure that the bark was really in there. There's lots and lots of air pockets around the base as well, because again, most of those were technically aerial roots. So I just want them to get a little acclimated, kind of have the same environment that they had, which is nice, dry, and airy. We will check on her during our Saturday strollings. We'll kind of monitor her as we go along, and hopefully she proves me right as far as root producing. I'm getting that piece of moss off there. Root producing and doesn't make a liar out of me. But that is one way that you can take a keiki from a mama. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you don't mind. It just helps me. It's free for you. You don't ever have to hit the notification button if you don't want to. And I will see you guys later.